What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you want to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
He described it as scarier than the first time he met me, which I wasn't sure how to take. Maybe that was just his sense of humor. Regardless, this was why Momiji had been sent here. If she landed such a clean hit on Alvis, you wouldn't want to underestimate her in battle. Honestly, I was glad she wasn't hostile to us anymore. But really, I couldn't dodge the real question any longer. Hakuro had a daughter all this time? No way. I was in a panic over it, worried that it'd balloon into a huge issue, but there wasn't much to be done about it until I met her. Besides, this wasn't something Benimaru and I could solve alone. We needed to hear from Hakuro, who had just as large a stake in this, but I didn't want to hurry him over here needlessly, either. So I decided to shelve the issue until he came back. And come back he did, the previous night, after his journey to Farmus. The three of us held a little chat. I had no idea what the Tengu would demand from us or what would happen with them at all, so we decided to save their audience for the final day. I was planning to call for Hakuro if he still wasn't around by then, but fortunately I didn't need to. Not that his timeliness solved a lot of problems, either. Benimaru and Momiji marrying was strictly an issue between the two of them. I didn't mind if they said yes, it didn't really seem to affect me at all, but…
Wait just a minute.
Benimaru began.
I have my own issues to think about, you realize.
What do you mean?
Hakuro countered.
Do you not like my daughter?
I am not saying that. Besides, why are you acting like a father now? You've never met her in your life. You didn't even know she existed.
Well, now that I do, I have a certain responsibility for her, do I not?
Hakuro seemed to be relishing Benimaru's consternation. It only made the problem worse. We kept talking all night, but it never really came to a conclusion, so here, in the audience chamber, I was going to be forced to wing it. The beautiful girl sat down on a hastily prepared chair in front of me. The colorful white to red gradient of her hair was indeed beautiful. This was the Momiji I had heard so much about, representing the Tengu elder here. She gave me a haughty look and began to speak.
Demon Lord Rimuru, it is good to meet you. My name is Momiji, and I have come here on behalf of the elder of the Tengu race. I look forward to working with you.
You're very kind. My name's Rimuru, and I've become a demon lord. I'm in human form now, as you can see, but I'm actually a slime. In general, I'm pretty much a pacifist, so if you have any problems, don't be afraid to hit me up.
There is no need for such concern. The way you have conquered the forest of Jura was breathtaking to witness. We recognize you as the ruler of the forest and look forward to being a good neighbor to you. However, we will not allow you to interfere in our affairs.
She was saying that in front of all my officials. I could see Shien's eyebrow twitch a little, but luckily no one reacted further. I hadn't explained the full story to her yet, so she actually stopped herself that time. That was a new change in her. As of late, she no longer responded to small things in her usual exaggerated fashion. That was a good trend to see, if a little creepy. Hopefully she wasn't just bottling it all in, only to have it explode later. Momiji, meanwhile, was waiting with bated breath to see how I'd reply. She put up a bold, dignified act, so you wouldn't notice unless it was pointed out to you, but I'm sure her nerves were killing her. She must not have been sure whether I was friend or foe yet. Declaring her allegiance would have been fine, I thought, but the pride her race had in themselves must have forbidden that. A young, inexperienced ruler faces doom if people look down on them, after all. I can understand that, even though it seemed like Momiji had the support of the younger Tengu warrior classes.
Alright, I understand. Certainly, we don't have any interest in unduly interfering with you, either. As I think Benimaru here explained to you, we just want to build a highway around the base of the Kusha Mountains. Also, just to be sure, you recognize the rights of the high orcs who have already moved into the mountains, right?
Yes, that is not a problem. I make no exclusive claims to the right to enjoy the mountain's blessings. You may mine the ore as much as you want, we have no need for it. We only wish to be left alone.
The mountainous areas were considered part of the forest of Jura's territory. I had braced myself for some sort of complaining about that, but I guess it's not a problem. So what were the Tengu so on edge about? She acted pretty prickly toward Alvis. Was there a fight between them and Carolon during his Demon Lord days? I decided it was safest to just ask directly.
So I don't know what you're so on guard about, but we really have no intention of starting a conflict with you, so.
You want me to believe that?
Yeah, I mean, have I said or done anything to make you suspect I've got my eyes on expanding my territory?
Momiji eyed me carefully, judging my intentions once again.
You associate with that crafty birdwoman Frey. That's all the evidence I need to recognize your ambitions.
She retorted. I can safely say I did not see that one coming.
Whoa, time out.
What does time out mean?
It means stop. We need to discuss some things.
I called my administration over. Momiji agreed to this, with some complaints, I think, but I wasn't really paying attention.
What do you think of that?
I asked once we were all in a circle.
The former Demon Lord Frey's territory is connected to the Kusha Mountains.
Soe quickly replied.
I could imagine some conflicts with the Tengu erupting along those lines.
I consulted the world map in my mind. True enough. The Tengu settlement was outside the forest itself, so fighting for it wouldn't violate any non-compete contracts. They might have tried to invade at one point.
But why, though?
I can't think of any reason.
Benimaru said. He must not have noticed anything amiss during his visit.
I have heard rumors. It is said that Frey likes high places. As her second name of the Sky Queen suggests, perhaps she's endeavored to move her capital to the tallest place within access to her.
Hakuro offered. That didn't sound quite right to me. Benimaru himself said the Tengu stronghold was an idyllic enclave on the other side of a cave at the peak of a mountain, in other words, a small plane of space on another dimension. That's not the kind of thing Frey would want. We all murmured to one another. Then,
Will you stop ignoring me?
Whoa.
I leapt up at the sound of someone shouting in my ear. Momiji was there, fuming and sick of waiting any longer. This time, I definitely couldn't tune her out. I gave up and sat back in my seat, facing her.
Let me ask you a question. Does Frey have ambitions on Tengu territory?
Huh? Of all the stupid things to ask.
She rolled her eyes, then realized I was being serious.
You're kidding me.
She muttered. It sounded like we weren't on the same page at all here, so I decided to let her tell her side of the story. As she put it, Frey's aim was to capture Elman Thalion, capital of the sorceress dynasty of Thalion. She wanted it not for its territory, but for its height. I sure wasn't expecting that. It was very in character for her, but I couldn't laugh about it. In terms of size, Thalion was a huge country. Frey didn't have the military resources to overwhelm it. However, while the nation enjoyed a geographical advantage against ground-based armies, against Frey and her aerial forces, they would face tougher going. Tactically, they were an even match, but Frey refused to let her ambitions stay just ambitions forever. That was why she had turned her attention on the Tengu. She wanted to bring them under her rule, shoring up her resources for a later assault on Thalion. But the Tengu were too proud for that, not ready to so easily accept Frey's demands. Thalion, expecting this, hoped for the two sides to erupt into conflict with each other, which would take the heat off them and also let them profit from the ensuing war. Frey was fully aware of that, however, and that stayed her hand. The result was this three-way détente that, frankly, looked pretty twisted to me. While all that was going on, I fought against Clayman, and once the dust settled, Caroline and Frey gave up their posts and resolved to serve the Demon Lord Milam. It was the birth of a new superpower, one the Tengu alone could never fend off, and now their government was in a heated debate over how to hold themselves going forward. And then Benimaru came along, taking one of the three lycanthropiers with him. Bad idea. Momiji mistook that as my attempt to silently apply pressure on her.
How's Frey been lately?
I asked Geld. As the person responsible for building a new capital city, he had been taking orders from Frey, making him the most familiar with her out of our little group.
Well, Sir Rimuru, Lady Frey seems tremendously satisfied with your plans. As taciturn as Mildo is, the two have gotten along well, and she's been participating in some very detailed planning meetings.
Frey found a way to make Mildo talk? That's impressive.
Alright, so has she lost interest in Elman Thalion?
Lost interest? I'd say her interests lie in.
In?
Well, lately, I haven't seen Lady Milam around. Lady Frey had been teaching her about governance and the like, but apparently she ran off on her unawares.
Oh, right. I'm pretty sure I know where she is. For the sake of this conversation, though, let's pretend that I don't. Let sleeping dogs lie, and all that.
As a result, I'd say that Lady Frey's primary focus at the moment is figuring out where Lady Milam went.
Concluded Geld. The gigantic capital building project, skyscrapers and all, had completely charmed Frey. It turned her interest away from any other potential capital she could conquer, they all paled in comparison. Milam, as Geld put it, was the bigger issue. And Momiji, listening to all this stuff going against what she imagined, was stunned into silence, unable to figure out how to react. I couldn't blame her. That's reality for you. A force who you assume wants you and your people dead, and all of a sudden, their focus is on something else entirely. If it happened to you, you'd probably want to run away from reality, too.
Alright, I understand. So there you have it. If you recognize all that as the misunderstanding it was, I'm cool with that.
It could be said that Tengu were not terribly wise in the ways of the world. The worry that they were surrounded by enemies had clouded Momiji's judgment. Based on her situation, I could see why she made the decision she did.
So I was imagining it all along. Mother did say I was overthinking matters.
She slumped back in her chair, the strength drained from her body. It was a lesson for all present. Jumping to conclusions can bite you hard. With that behind us, our talks quickly came to a close. Since Momiji was still a little out of it, one of the Tengu warriors looked over the pact we were to sign in her stead. I thought these were bodyguards, but I guess they served as government staff, too. The tunnel question would be saved for later. We wouldn't be allowed to start on it, I was told, until we could prove it was safe. That made sense to me, so I didn't make a big deal out of it. We needed to talk to Thalion about building a tunnel anyway, and it wouldn't really get underway until we finished developing trains, so there was no need to set anything in stone quite yet. The Tengu didn't want us to interfere with them because they mistakenly thought we were prepping for an invasion, but now that we'd addressed that misunderstanding, nothing stopped us from having normal relations. So we agreed to help each other out, in case something ever happened.
So is that all?
Yes.
The Tengu aide said with a bow.
My thanks to you, Demon Lord, for allowing us to conduct such constructive negotiations.
So things were square with Momiji. Our pact was signed. Now we needed to talk about Momiji and Hakuro's relationship, and Benimaru and Momiji's potential marriage. We failed to reach a conclusion on that last night. Momiji started the day hostile toward us, but that had presumably changed now. Should we maybe work this out just with the people directly involved? As I debated with myself over how to broach the topic, the Tengu aide took out a sealed envelope.
There is also the matter of this. Our elder, Lady Kaide, has this letter for you, Lord Rimuru.
He respectfully handed it to me. Rigurd accepted it, and Shuna handled opening and reading it. It began with the sort of verbose, convoluted greetings you often saw in royal correspondence, probing me a bit to guess at where my disposition was, but grew less formal as it went on. Shuna's face contorted in confusion as she read on.
I know things are complicated, and there have been a few misunderstandings, but I hope you will treat my daughter well. I remind you of what she told me about making Sir Benimaru turn toward her. I am sure she is not against the idea.
Wait, are you sure this letter's for me? It really doesn't sound that way. If I had known it contained stuff like this, I would have dismissed my staff, but it was too late for that now.
Mother?
Momiji leapt back to her feet, snatching the letter out of Shuna's hands. Rude of her, but I'd just pretend I didn't see it.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shoutout to @DISCLAIMER420, James Yap, Michael, Stratus Lampro, Muhammad Norais Alikan, Chadvo Ta, Abhishek Dungdung, Neil Thakar, Leothin BS, and last but not least, shoutout to Warriors of Athens. I'll see you guys in the next video.